Your Detroit Pistons knock off the number one seed Oklahoma City Thunder. What on earth is going on? We're going to break down that and Jaylen Duren's monster performance in just a moment.
Lane, sky's a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_3on3. If you're feeling so kind, please hit that subscribe button. We're very close to 600 subscribers, so I want to keep this channel moving. Wow, the Pistons. I don't know. That was the most fun I've had since the first week of the season. Detroit take down the number one seed in the West, Oklahoma City Thunder, 120-104 in a game that, I don't even think it's close. It's not even a question. That was the best game of the season for the Pistons. Cade Cunningham was a late scratch. There's some stuff around Cade and his absence and how the Pistons perform without him that I think I'm going to do a separate video on that because I want to keep today's video all positive because that was just so much fun. Like, honestly, I'm going to get to the talking points in a minute, but there were so many contributors in this game. It was a game as well where the Pistons started slow. OKC got out. They were up by double digits in this game multiple times, and they got out to a fast start. I think they were up like 15-4 at one point. And signs early on weren't great. We had Stu attempting threes. He did hit one, but the offense just looked stagnant and it wasn't looking good there. But to the Pistons' credit, they fought back and, it was by the end of the first quarter, a 7 points difference. But then the Pistons just exploded for 46 in the second quarter and were really able to separate themselves on the back of some great play from Jaylen Duren and Jaden Ivey, who I'll get to in a minute. But I really just want to point out in the third quarter where the Pistons were up by double digits, the Thunder got it all the way back to 4 points. And it was at that point where I think all of us, this is where the Pistons roll over towards the end of the third quarter, start of the fourth, particularly the fourth. But, OKC are a terrific team. They got players everywhere that are going to be all-stars or just top-level starters, and they've got that much talent and firepower. It just felt like once they got back within 4, SGA was cooking. He hit this ridiculous shot over Stu for an M1 off a number of pump fakes. Just felt like they had all the momentum. But for the Pistons to immediately hit back and close the third quarter and win the third quarter 30-25 and take big lead into the last quarter, I thought was huge just to that fight back. And I just wanted to highlight that off the top because this wasn't a game where OKC completely rolled over. And even if they had, it would have been, this is an awesome win. But the Pistons were challenged multiple times by a really good team. And I think it was really encouraging to see them continue to fight and just hustle and not give up. I know that stuff's, gets overused, but it just felt like tonight the energy was there pretty much the whole game. And I think just as a team, my number one takeaway, and I was tweeting this throughout the game while I was watching, it was just the lack of turnovers. I think the Pistons had one turnover at halftime. One. Like, for a team that had just lost the game the day prior to the Wizards, pretty much because of turnovers, that was huge. So the Pistons finished with 9 turnovers. OKC only finished with 10. And I think that shows you, I think I might be guilty of a little bit. Like, we can get a bit fixated on turnovers. Like, if you're a good team and you have a high usage guard or just a couple of high usage players, like, turnovers are going to happen. But when you're the Pistons and your offense isn't great at the best of times and your defense is horrible, you cannot be turning it over as much as the Pistons do and as much as they did yesterday. So to see them come out today and immediately correct that, I think was really encouraging. So that's just kind of my general sense on the game itself. And I think where I want to start was, I think man of the match was Jaylen Duren. And he probably was like he had a really good first half. His first quarter, like most of the team, wasn't amazing. Pistons came out a little bit slow, but I think he absolutely won the matchup with Chet tonight. JD finishes with his first 20-20 of the season. I believe he's second of his career, but he finished with 22 points, 21 rebounds, 6 assists, and a block on 9 of 13 shooting. Now, that rebounding total and the assist total were both career highs. And yeah, just a brilliant game. And just specifically in his matchup with Chet, I mean, he outmuscled Chet numerous times. And not only did he outmuscle him for rebounds, but I love the craft. JD, he's been showing this in recent weeks, but his footwork in the post now and on drives is really standing out to me. He's just got this ability now to fake and spin and use like a jump hook, or use a number of fakes and just use a normal jump hook, or just drive to the rim and finish. That's the stuff I like. I've really enjoyed watching. He did take a jumper tonight and he hit it. So, I've been harsh on that, but I'm going to reserve my judgment on that for tonight. But I think, yeah, he well and truly outmuscled Chet. Chet had the 12 rebounds, but it was a minus 20 on the night. Only the 9 points, I think 8 of those or 7 of those came in the first quarter. Only the 1 block, which I think's huge as well. Chet's like 3rd in the league for blocks. So he was limited as a rim protector tonight. And I think some of that had to do with just the presence of Jaylen Duren and him having to, stay accountable to JD on rolls and not being able to leave him in the dunker spot. And just JD just, being, he had 9 offensive rebounds. So he's in and around the paint, making Chet, just holding him accountable as a shot blocker, not allowing him to roam and attack from the weak side and spot shots. So I think those two have a little mini rivalry, I feel like, they're both from the same draft class. And I think they faced off in maybe the Sweet 16 in 2022. And, there's some clips of them kind of pushing around and JD flexing on him. So they hugged it out after the game. But I think that's just a cool little rivalry between the Pistons and OKC, just Chet and JD, 2 competitive guys. So I think that was a key matchup tonight. And then the next guy was Jaden Ivey. The stats won't blow you away. He finished with 19 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So like a really good all-round game. Like 7 of 20 shooting, you probably look at that and go, this is, one of those high usage kind of inefficient nights from a guard that has the ball in his hands a fair bit. But if you watch the game, in that first half, like, he was diving everywhere. There's an awesome play. You would have seen it by now. Go check my Twitter if you need. It's on there. But he dives and saves a loose ball, taps it back, and just has multiple efforts. And it essentially, he passes it back to Alec Burks and then drains a 3. And even Monty Williams, the OKC got a timeout after that. Monty Williams was fired up. And go back and watch it. But he kind of puts the fist up and screams as if to say, like, come on, guys. Like he was all over that effort. And, Jaden had multiple efforts like that throughout the night, just diving everywhere. He had 3 offensive rebounds. That's become a staple in the past month for him, particularly since that Boston game where the Pistons almost won just before Christmas, I think it was. But, yeah, he's really starting to remind me. And some people might not like this, but I think it's a good thing. And he's really starting to remind me of Russell Westbrook. And I think this is the thing with Jaden, where I think people underestimate his playmaking ability. And especially when you compare him to Cade. And if we remove the turnover thing, I'm just purely talking about the way they play, make, and pass. Cade looks smooth, and he has the moves, and he has the craft and the handle and kind of everything you need. Like, Cade is has all the sweet dribble moves. Like, he makes it look beautiful the way he passes the ball and can play make. But I think Jaden Ivey gets underestimated because he's that more rigid, explosive type of athlete, that he doesn't get as much recognition for kind of the plays he makes. And he doesn't make as flashy plays as Cade. But I think at times he can be just as effective with his, first step and ability to draw the defense in and kick it out. And I think he's just got a lot better as well. Like he has this tendency to always try and throw no-look passes, which I know frustrates people, but I think he's just gotten better at making those connective passes and swinging the ball, finding guys like Boyan. It's still definitely an area for improvement, but I think, yeah, often I know some people probably disagree with me, but I think his playmaking gets underrated because it doesn't look as smooth. It's a bit rigid, and you know, his mistakes often look a lot worse than someone like Cade's because he can look out of control and he can look kind of like he makes a lot of jump passes that can get picked off, which, I can see why people see those and go, this guy just looks like he has no idea what's going on. But I mean, I think he's relatively effective. So I thought just the energy and effort was A1 from him tonight and was what stood out the most. And he finishes 3 of 7 from 3. I thought he hit all 3 of those threes were like big time. I think 2 of them were in the third and 1 was in the fourth, but they all just came at crucial stages when the team, the 2 in the third quarter came, big times when the Pistons were, when OKC had come back, like I said, and got it to within 4. And, I feel like he hit one in the corner to put him back up by 10. And then the last quarter, JD found Jaden in the corner for like a wide open corner shot to put the Pistons up. That was to put them up by like 14 or something, but it was kind of almost a dagger with a few minutes to go, or even if there might have been 5 minutes to go. But I think, yeah, box score wise, you might look at that and say, not an amazing game. But if you watch tonight, I think there's an argument to be made he had more of an impact than Jaylen Duren. And, if you look at their stat lines and efficiency, you probably think that's a closer. I mean, you probably think JD clearly, but I think they both were huge in this one. And man, honestly, there was so much to like tonight. Marcus Sasser was a guy I wanted to give some praise to. He finished with 12 points, 4 assists, 5 of 9 shooting, but those 4 assists were, one of the knocks on Marcus is his playmaking and kind of development he needs to make as a passer. He's more of a 2 guard right now, but he had 3 of those assists. 2 of them were to Asar, who they ran like a pick and roll action, and Asar cut for 1 and got an M1 opportunity off the roll. And then another one was Sasser threw a lob to Asar, and they were just beautiful passes. And then the third one, he hit JD with a beautiful bounce pass in stride, and he ended up dunking it on Chet. And yeah, just the passing stood out to me. And then his floater is just money, and hit a couple of threes. And yeah, just a really good game for him. He led the bench in scoring with 12. And yeah, I mean, Monte Morris, after, a poor game, probably be expected in his second game back against the Wizards. He bounced back, had 9 points, 2 assists, 4 of 8 from the field. Mike Muscala came in, hit a 3. Kevin Knox, 6 points, 3 rebounds. Alec Burks, only the 10 points tonight, but 3 of 5 from the field. Yeah, it was just a really, really fun game. I think Boyan in the first half was pivotal to help get that lead at the half. He only finished with 17, but, I think he's back to where he was last season as a scorer. And I mean, this is a conversation for another time probably, but I think I personally, after being someone who thinks Boyan you should keep him, I do think it's time to move him with the way this season's gone. And I hope they do capitalize on that trade value, because I think it would be pretty close to back to where it was last year. At least his players, and I think you can net something good for him before you're losing for nothing, because he's back to where he was as a scorer last year. Stu, unfortunately, tweaked an ankle in the last quarter. The Pistons don't play for 2 games. He didn't return 2 days. Sorry, Stu didn't return, so it'd be interesting to see how they manage that. He had the 11 points tonight, and I mean, it's good to see him use at the backup 5 tonight as well. At the start of the fourth, I think he's proving that he's just, if he becomes a backup 5, I'm saying this like as a generalization. I haven't done proper research, but I reckon he could be the best backup 5 by far, just in terms of his defensive presence and then kind of how he's improved his offensive game. Like even when he's at the 5, we all know he's not the best roll or rim threat on the roll because he doesn't have the explosiveness. But if you have spacing around him, he can roll into space. And I think his finishing has gotten a lot better. Obviously, he sometimes drops passes. I think some guys are just like that. But I think just seeing him at the 5, it continues to show that, look, I think we've seen enough this season to say him starting at the 4 alongside Jaylen Duren probably isn't going to work when the Pistons are really winning. But I think one of the major positives we've gotten in recent weeks is just seeing him dominate when he's played the backup 5 minutes. So really enjoyed that. Probably the only negative of tonight was, and it wasn't even that big of a deal, but it was Killian Hayes, 14 minutes. Just, yeah, I get in trouble every time I mention him, I feel like. But, yeah, I don't see a spot for him in the rotation. Like, even with Cade out, like, I think his minutes, Sasa and Sasa, Burks, and Morris should split those minutes because, yeah, it's, the thing for me, Killian, is just doesn't even look to score anymore. Like, the amount of times he drives into the paint and doesn't even look at the rim, or the ball swings to him and he just moves it so quickly, which he's making the right basketball decision because unfortunately he just hasn't ever been able to develop an efficient shot. But yeah, he's just a complete non-factor. So as a scoring threat, which just doesn't work alongside the guards that the Pistons have. So I don't know, man. That's probably it for today's episode. I just want to keep this positive as possible. That was the best game of the season so far. I know a lot of you guys are going to be disappointed with the Lions loss. I don't really have a horse in that race, but I guess I just want to keep this as positive as possible because I don't know how many more times we're going to have games like this throughout the season. So that's going to do it for today's show. Before we finish up, if you use Instagram, I've started using the Pistons Intellect Instagram, which is just going to have lots of news, plenty of player highlights, stats, a lot of what you see on my Twitter, but in a bit more of a aesthetically pleasing way. So if you use Instagram, give Pistons Intellect a follow, and yeah, I'd love any support. The link is always in the description for the social channels. So that'll do it for today. I'll be back for the Pistons next game in 2 days. I can't remember who it's against. I think it might be the Cavs. But till then, as always, and I can say it proud tonight, go Pistons.